My name is Tom Parker. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. I'm pleased to welcome you here today and to introduce our guest speakers. I'll get right to that. Our first guest speaker today is Roger McCullum, our CEO. Roger's been working in medical management administration for over 30 years, starting in medical and dental practice management consulting, continuing with the management of large medical groups, and as a regional manager of several national medical companies. He has been superintendent of King County Public Hospital District Number 4 and CEO of Snoqualmie Valley Hospital since May of 2004. He has extensive experience working with physicians and medical groups and has worked on many physician and hospital projects over the years. Most of his background is in the financial, growth, and management aspects of medical service organizations. Roger has a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from the University of Washington, an MBA from Rockhurst College, and a CPA certificate from the state of Kansas. He has served on the boards of the Washington State Hospital Association and Rural Health Quality Network. Currently, he serves on the boards of the Association of Public Hospital Districts, the Public Hospital District Unemployment Compensation Trust, and the Public Hospital District Workers' Compensation Trust. He has served as president of the Northwest Hospital Council and is on the Executive Oversight Group. On the Executive Oversight Group, he was sponsored by Mike Kreidler, Washington State's Insurance Commissioner. In the community, Roger has served as president of the Chamber of Commerce and continues to serve on the boards of the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital Foundation and Snoqualmie Sister Cities Association. Roger and his wife Tina have been married for 35 years and have lived in North Bend for more than 20 years, where they have raised their two children, Drew and Sarah. Now I'm going to go off text. Sorry, Jill. Just a brief statement, and that is, I'd like to say that without Roger's vision and tenacity, we wouldn't be here today. I give you Roger McCullum.
Thank you, Tom. Tom Parker is our Chief Operating Officer and has been here about 4 years now. And he has extensive experience with large hospitals and is very knowledgeable about hospital operations, so it's a pleasure to be working with him. Almost 2 years ago, most of us stood here. It was an empty plot of ground, and we broke ground on the new construction of the new hospital. Today we stand here again, and we're going to cut the ribbon and commission our new Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. I would like to welcome all of our guests today. We have representatives here, many of our elected leaders, and I would like to give them a special welcome today. In addition, before I get into too much of the text here, I want to also pay special recognition to Larry Benaroya and the Benaroya Companies and Dan Absher and Absher Construction, who have brought this marvelous building to our community. Over 20 years ago, my wife Tina and our two children, Drew and Sarah, moved to the Valley. We knew instantly that it was a spectacular place to live, and not only beautiful surroundings, but also the people that live here that became our friends and neighbors. Shortly after we arrived, the hospital closed. Of course, we had the normal childhood scrapes and bruises. We would end up at Dr. Steele's urgent care, or we would see Jenny Rowe at the clinic that was in the old hospital ER at the time, or we would see Alan Johnson at his clinic. And through it all, since I was in healthcare administration, I would ask about our hospital. I had worked for years with physicians and hospitals on projects throughout the western United States and was puzzled why we were having these difficulties. So when the opportunity opened up to become the superintendent and CEO of this hospital, I chose to make that choice and to do what I could to do to help the community. Like I said, that was 11 years ago. There have been many challenges to overcome, but overcome them we did, and we did it with the help of courageous community and clinical leaders. In those early days, our hospital district commissioners knew in their hearts that reviving this hospital was the right thing to do for our community, and I would like to recognize them now. Dick Jones, who on my first day on the job introduced me to the CEO at Overlake Hospital. Cynthia Johnson, who introduced me to the CEO at Evergreen Healthcare, and those relationships continue today. Joan Young, an RN with many years' experience working in large hospital ER environments. Kevin Hogley, who was an EMT and volunteer fireman in Falls City for more than 25 years. And Fritz Ryberry, who was chairman of the Finance Committee, took a deep gulp when our monthly expenditures exceeded $300,000. Today, on a monthly basis, they exceed $2.5 million per month. And collectively, we have brought in over $200 million to the community, most of which has gone to salaries, most of who live here in the Valley. One of the things I knew coming in was that no hospital would be successful without physician, clinical, and operational leadership. From the beginning, Dr. Kim Wickhop has stood shoulder to shoulder, partnering with us in our departments to ensure that our clinical excellence is second to none. From our very first meeting years ago, and hopefully for many years to come, she has contributed so much. We all have her to thank for the standards that have been established here and maintained over the years in this hospital. Future of healthcare in our valley. This is a topic that I spent a lot of time on, either through working in a collaborative of 12 critical access rural hospitals like us, or participating in Washington State Hospital Association activities. We are always trying to peer into the future. We're trying to determine what our position should be and how we're going to prepare for the changes that we all know are coming in healthcare. People sometimes ask me, do we really need a hospital district? I always respond with a resounding yes. Because the one for sure in all of this is that we know the federal government, the insurance companies, and even state governments are not going to fight for your access to health care. We will. For it is only at the local community level that we can impact your direct access to the appropriate care that you need. We have a new facility. We have tremendous staff. We have our elected commissioners, Gene Pollard, Daryl Norris, Ryan Roberts, Dave Spikers, and the president of our commission, John Young. In closing, I would say, let us see what we can make of the future of healthcare for all of us, friends, neighbors, and families working together for the betterment of our health. Thank you very much.
It's now my pleasure to introduce Mayor Matt Larson. Mayor Larson's been involved in the city of Snoqualmie government for the past 15 years. He sat briefly on the Parks Board, spent 2 years as chair of the Planning Commission, served 4 years on the City Council, 2 years as Mayor Pro Tem, and is in his 9th year as mayor. Mayor Larson has been recognized as an advanced certified municipal leader by the Association of Washington Cities. He served 2 years as president of the Snoqualmie Valley Governments Association, serves on the King County Flood Control District Advisory Committee, and on the Sound Cities Association Board of Directors. He graduated from St. John's University in Minnesota. He He has been married for 29 years and is a proud father of 4 children. 15 members of his immediate and extended family are proud to call Snoqualmie their home. Please welcome Mayor Matt Larson.
I should have updated the bio. My wife and I actually just hit our 30th anniversary this year. Well, thank you all for coming. It's great to see such a strong turnout today. I remember when we first moved to Snoqualmie Ridge some 15, 16 years ago, my wife, a lot of folks in the community said, you know, you probably don't want to go up to that Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. The care there is not that great. You know, if you got anything going on, take them down to the hospital in Bellevue. And I remember about 8 years ago, my son, when about 12 years old, was playing on the Wildcats team down at the Mount Si high school field down there. Kids were pretty excited to be on that field. And my wife was down there with him, and I showed up about the same time. He was coming off the field holding his arm, and he's looking very distraught. He's got tears coming down his eyes. And he says, you know, I got really banged up. And like any good father, I said, come on, shake it off, tough it up, get back out there. But then he says, it was when he says, but Mom and Dad, my arm feels kind of wobbly. And that was sort of a clue that maybe we shouldn't just send him back out. So we thought, well, he could at times be a little melodramatic, and we weren't really thrilled about the idea of spending the next 6 hours driving down to Bellevue and waiting down there for an hour and a half or 2 in the waiting room just to get seen. We thought, well, let's go up to the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. We'll give it a chance. What's the worst that could happen? They could at least figure out if it's something more serious, and then we could take him to the serious hospital. Well, sure enough, we got up there, and to our great pleasure and surprise, we found that the hospital up there, the staff and folks up there were as proficient and as expert as any hospital I've ever been in. In fact, the customer service was exceptional. We were probably in and out of the place in about an hour and a half. They quickly diagnosed he, in fact, had a complete spiral fracture on his upper arm, and they dialed in a recovery program, and he made a full recovery in short order. Now, I also remember an experience a couple years after that where I woke up in the middle of the night with just severe abdominal pain. And I was thinking, my God, I think my appendix is about to rupture or something. I mean, it was just pretty bad. And ladies, you know how tough and stoic your husbands are when they're sick. So that for that reason, my wife said, well, maybe you ought to go go to the hospital. And of course, I think she was just trying to get me out of the room so she could get back to sleep. But so I went up to the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital in the middle of the night. Same experience, just in very quickly, attended to. They came out, I think, with a diagnosis that I had some sort of gas blockage or something. So, and I know that's probably too much information for a mayor to share with all of you. But I will remind you, you always want to speak to your audience, and most of these healthcare folks live for TMI, so this is okay. Now, some folks might know that cities exist by virtue of the authority of the state legislature. And the state legislature mandates that everything we do has to distill down to 3 things. We have to tend to the health, the safety, and the welfare of our citizens. And so in that light, as I watch the debates and all the tough conversations go on around in the last decade or more about, you know, the merits of a hospital district and whether there should even be a hospital district here or a hospital here and the viability of that, the thing that constantly bothered me was that if we lost a hospital out here, it would be highly unlikely we would ever be able to get that back for the next 50 to 100 years. And we just don't know what that time frame holds in mind. And that's just too critical of a resource to lose for this community. So I'm just so pleased that we're here today at this very historical moment celebrating this resource being here. It's important to also note that the hospital district serves as an economic anchor in our community. Over the last 10 years, it's contributed over $100 million to the Valley's economy, on average about $10 million a year, and provides over 200 jobs in the Valley. Serves almost 100,000 community members in the hospital and clinics. And as we all know now, this new hospital will have exceptionally better access from all 4 directions versus the old site that was pretty out of sight and very limited, particularly down the 90. You could only get to it in one direction, heading east. So in conclusion, I know everybody's anxious to get to the tour, so I just want to say on behalf of Snoqualmie citizens, on behalf of the council and my staff, sincere and warm thank you to all the board, past and present board and commissioner members that have worked so hard on getting this thing done. I always think of that Otto von Bismarck quote that laws and sausages are, you never want to see either one of those being made. And I would put, planning to get a hospital built, the same thing. It's been kind of a tough process getting there, but the result is quite appealing and great for the community. Not only have you guys done a great job of keeping this valuable health resource in our community, but also just making it much more accessible and much more valuable for our citizens, but also making it far more suitable and meeting our modern healthcare needs. So at this time, I think it's time for all of us now in the community to roll up our sleeves and do everything we can to help you all be very successful. Roger, to you all, and your very capable staff, I want to congratulate all of you too, and all the great work that you guys have put in. Tough work over the last several years getting this done. So congratulations to you, sir. Let's give Roger a big hand of applause, please. Congratulations.
Unfortunately, our keynote speaker, Mary Selecki, is unable to join us today because of an injury. And it was a long trip that her doctor said she should not make. Ben Lindenkugel, Executive Director of the Association of Washington Public Hospital Districts, will be speaking on her behalf, and Roger is going to do his introduction.
Payback time. Yeah, that's true. Welcome, Ben. Ben Lindenkugel is the Executive Director of the Association of Washington Public Hospital Districts. He worked for 15 years at Evergreen Health in Kirkland, developing and leading community-based services, managing various clinical departments, and heading up community relations and board governance. And so he's got an extensive background in healthcare as well. And between Evergreen and AWPHD, Ben is very active with rural hospitals across the state and other community organizations around the management, governance, and organizational development. So Ben, welcome, and thank you for coming at short notice.
Thank you. So I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm not the least bit upset to be your second choice. Many of the things in my life I was second, and they worked out just great. We'll see if this does. I really want to thank you for inviting me. This is incredible. This is an incredible undertaking and a great success. You all, and I mean all of you, deserve a lot of credit for this happening. The mayor talked about and alluded to different processes and difficulties and challenges as you move forward. And, you may think about those at some point, but now is the time to think about really what you've accomplished. And it's a time to acknowledge all of the hard work that you've done. I want to thank you both for being able to mark this important event, and also for being able to channel Mary Selecki, who is one of my favorite people. I do have to say, back to the introduction, that I wasn't sure what to happen when the first word of Tom's introduction to me was "unfortunately," but I got past that. But so what I actually want to do here in a minute or so is to read for you, actually, Mary's remarks, because I don't know how many of you know Mary Selecki. She was the recently retired head of the Department of Health for the state, and Mary has never been at a loss for words. In fact, sometimes you had to stop her after a while. But so in true form, it wasn't okay for me to come and speak to you. I had to come and deliver her words, so I will do that. But before I do, I want to congratulate the board, the executive leadership, and especially the clinical staff and the other staff without whom your motto, dedicated to quality, devoted to community, would be a meaningless phrase. You're all here not because you have to be, but because you're part of this. And I, as Roger said, have been involved with public hospital districts for the last third of my career. And it's by choice. I love the connection. I believe in what you do, and I believe in this very thing as a metaphor for exactly what public hospital districts are. And speaking of community, this is Snoqualmie Valley Hospital is King County Public Hospital District number 4, and there are a number of folks in my association, CEOs like Rogers on my board, who sometimes it's so too bureaucratic. We don't want to talk about public entities, and of course, public anything these days, government isn't exactly the thing you think of in positive terms most of the time. So it's often seen as a necessary evil. I want to tell you, I want to debunk that thought. For me, public hospital districts really reflect the community. They're created in a literal sense, owned in a literal sense, financed, and governed by citizens. Imagine, to put this in perspective, people often talk about the taxes you pay as an indication of your public nature, but consider this. You all elect 5 fine commissioners who run an enterprise of north of $20 million a year. Imagine any other enterprise in your life where you get to select the board of directors of a $20 million agency. It's a big deal, and it's a big deal for the commissioners too. It's fashionable these days to confuse citizenship with consumerism, and I think in this case the Board of Commissioners and the executive staff have to deal with both what it means to be a citizen and really what the mayor was talking about when he talked about his family and the linkages and so on, but also about the market, about being businesses, and have to think about how to keep the ship afloat. This last couple of years have had their difficult times. I've heard about a few of them. I'm sure there's a lot I haven't heard about, but you'd expect that. If you want efficiency, you don't work in healthcare governance, and you don't work in public sector. But if you want meaning and grounding in the community and meaningful outcomes, that's where you come. With that in mind, I think next I'll read Mary's remarks and then just wrap up with a few comments of my own. Mary said, "I'm so saddened that this muscle pull is keeping me from driving or otherwise traveling to help dedicate the hospital. Best advice from everyone, physical therapy, massage therapists, and doc, is to stay put. This makes me sad. I was so looking forward to it. I have so few circle celebrations from the struggles to get the financing, to the groundbreaking, to the realization of the hospital. In fact, it would have been a first for her to have that full cycle. So you know, she says, I'm not taking this decision lightly." Her remarks are, "Our invitations to this event call it a special grand opening," and it is. This is Mary Selecki, the retired Secretary of Health, sending you greetings and congratulations on this incredible achievement to have the best health care close to home. I'm not able to be there because I'm dealing with pulled muscles that make it impossible to make the 6-hour trip. Critical access hospitals are an important provider in remote, small communities for quality, up-to-date health care. This is a hospital that delivers daily services to the residents, but also has to be prepared for the unwanted emergency that can happen in any community. Thank goodness this updated hospital is here. You, the community, with the leadership of the hospital board and staff, built a new acute and outpatient delivery system. Be proud of what you have. Use health services locally. Support your local healthcare community. We all need each other, and we need this updated facility and the services that will now be provided here. Congratulations and enjoy your celebration. Best to you all, Mary Selecki." Again, I'm disappointed. I have a wonderful celebration, she says. So that's more funny for those of you who know her. So I just want to end by saying this is an end of a process. You've been through a lot. Here it is. There's no better symbol than the end of the process. But it's also the beginning of a new era. This is, as much as it's great to have a hospital, this is not your father's hospital. Healthcare is changing, the world of healthcare is changing, how we relate to healthcare is changing, and the services that are provided in this hospital will fit today's environment and tomorrow's environment, not yesterday's. So it is an updated, new environment. But acknowledge that, celebrate it, take a minute, enjoy this gracious space, the chance to take a breath and celebrate the accomplishments. Commissioners, you represented your community. You made manifest a vision of service in the form of this marvelous resource. Leadership, you guided the ship through the myriad expected and unexpected hurdles. And community, you have a resource that will support you and your families for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Before we tour, we're going to cut a ribbon. What I'd like to do is have our Board of Commissioners, and if you could just take the first couple steps behind our ribbon cutters, I'd appreciate that. And then my fellow members of the executive team, please come and stand up behind the commissioners. And so I'd like to invite our 3 speakers, Roger, Mayor Larson, And Ben, if you could come up here, you're our ribbon cutting team.